The Kansas sky was a sheet of fire, the last light of the sun spilling gold across the endless fields. The wheat swayed with the evening wind, bending like an ocean of amber waves, whispering secrets that only the land could understand. It was the kind of quiet, timeless place where people believed nothing truly dark could ever happen. But under the wide arms of an ancient oak tree, darkness had already taken root. Emily Hayes, a young woman of 24, sat slumped against the rough bark. Thick ropes cut into her wrists and waist, pinning her tight. Her cheek was swollen from a slap, her lower lip split and bleeding. Her green shirt was streaked with dirt where she'd been dragged, her long brown hair tangled with twigs. She wasn't the kind of girl who caused trouble. She wasn't the kind of girl who raised her voice. Emily was the quiet strength of her family farm, the one who fed the chickens before dawn, who stayed late mending fences while her neighbors went home. But that quietness, it made her a target. For boys, no older than 21, stood around her. Varsity jackets hung proudly from their shoulders, the bright blue and yellow screaming of arrogance. They weren't out here for fun, they were out here for sport. Jake, the tallest, leaned down, his grin sharp with cruelty. "What's the matter, farm girl? You don't look so tough now." Emily's breath came ragged, her throat dry. She didn't answer him. Instead, she lifted her chin ever so slightly, her eyes locking with his. They were tired eyes, but steady. Cold. "You don't know what you've done," she whispered. The other boys burst out laughing, their voices bouncing across the quiet fields. To them, she was bluffing. Just some weak farmer's daughter pretending to be brave. But Emily knew the truth. Her husband, Nathan Cole, wasn't a man you wanted to cross. Not because of who he was in this town, but because of who he was beyond it. Nathan was a captain in Delta Force, a soldier who had walked battlefields half the world away, a man trained to fight darkness itself. And just before the bullies had tied her phone hand into her pocket, Emily had managed to press one button, just one. The emergency dial. That call had gone through. Thousands of miles away, in a sand-swept base across the Middle East, Nathan's phone buzzed against his chest pocket. He was seated in a dim command room, maps spread out, satellite images glowing on screens. His men were discussing an upcoming raid when he glanced down and saw her name. Emily. His heart seized. She never called during missions. Never. He excused himself, stepping into the harsh desert night. He answered, but what he heard froze the air in his lungs. Muffled voices. Male laughter. Wind through leaves. And then. His wife's voice, trembling but steady. "You don't know what you've done." Then the line cut. Nathan's blood turned to fire. He had faced warlords, terrorists, insurgents, but the sound of his wife in danger shattered every wall of discipline inside him. He stormed back into the command center, every soldier in the room feeling the storm radiating from his presence. Within hours, Nathan had secured a flight back. Rank and reputation carried weight, and when the other men heard why, when they learned that his wife was in trouble, no one questioned him. They would have carried him to the plane themselves if they could. Back under the oak, the bullies' fun dragged on. They mocked her, threatened her, pretended to dig at the ground near her feet as though preparing a shallow grave. Emily didn't cry. She didn't scream. She only thought of Nathan, his smile, his laugh, the way he once held her hand at this very tree when he proposed under the summer sky. She thought of that ring, still tight on her finger, and whispered to herself, "He will come." The boys mistook her silence for fear. "Bet your farm boy crush ain't coming," Jake sneered. But inside, Emily held on to a truth they couldn't see. 2 days later, a black pickup rolled into town. Nathan hadn't slept. His eyes were bloodshot, his face shadowed by a beard grown during the long flight. His muscles ached, but his resolve was steel. He drove with one hand on the wheel, the other clutching a photo of Emily, their wedding day, sunlight spilling across her white dress, his arm wrapped proudly around her waist. He didn't need a map. He followed instinct, the kind that had saved his life on missions countless times. He found the crushed grass, the broken twigs, the marks where rope had dug into bark. His wife had been there. His pulse pounded like war drums. That night, he went to the bar. The same boys were there, their jackets bright under the neon glow. They were laughing, throwing darts, drinking cheap beer like they were kings of the world. Nathan stepped inside. The room shifted instantly. He wasn't in uniform, but his presence was heavier than steel. Every step was calculated, every glance razor-sharp. The boys noticed. Their laughter faltered. Jake leaned back, smirking to cover his nerves. "Can we help you, old man?" Nathan didn't answer. He reached into his pocket and slid a photo onto the bar. Emily. Smiling. Alive. "I'm her husband," Nathan said quietly. His voice wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. The bar went silent. Even the jukebox seemed to stop mid-song. "You've got one chance," Nathan continued. "Tell me where she is." The boys exchanged uneasy glances. Jake tried to chuckle, but Nathan moved in a blur, slamming him face-first against the bar. A glass shattered. The other boys jumped, but Nathan didn't even flinch. His voice stayed calm, terrifyingly calm. "Where is she?" Panic cracked them. One stammered, another blurted out the truth. Nathan let Jake go, watching him collapse, blood trickling from his nose. He didn't stay for revenge. He didn't care about fear. All he cared about was Emily. When he found her, she was half-conscious near the oak. The rope was frayed, she had been working it loose for hours. Her head tilted when she heard his boots on the grass. "Nathan," she whispered. His chest broke open. He dropped to his knees, cutting the rope, pulling her into his arms. His hands trembled as they cupped her face, brushing dirt and blood away. "I've got you," he whispered fiercely. "I'll always have you." She clung to him, her tears wetting his shirt. "I knew you'd come." Nathan carried her home. Justice came swiftly. Nathan turned the boys over to the sheriff, pressing charges that tore their golden boy reputations to shreds. No more laughing at the bar. No more strutting in their jackets. They became outcasts, stripped of the false power they once wielded. But Emily's scars lingered. Nights filled with nightmares. Days haunted by the feeling of rope on her skin. Nathan knew his toughest battle was no longer overseas, it was here, in the quiet of their farmhouse, helping her find peace again. He sat with her through every nightmare. He held her hand through every tremor. And slowly, day by day, the light returned to her eyes. One evening, weeks later, Emily stood on the farmhouse porch, looking out at the fields. The wheat swayed golden, like nothing had ever happened. But she was changed now, stronger, braver. That night, she spoke in town, sharing her story so no other quiet girl would feel alone. Her voice trembled, but she spoke anyway. And in that courage, she found healing. And right here, before we close their story, let me ask you, if Emily's strength has touched you, if Nathan's loyalty inspires you, if you believe in the power of love to face cruelty and win, then support Soul Touch Stories. Like this video, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe so you never miss the stories that matter most. Together, we can keep these voices alive. Months later, Nathan and Emily sat again beneath the old oak tree. This time, there were no ropes. Just her head resting on his shoulder, his arm wrapped protectively around her, the sunset painting the sky in fire and gold. "You know what they never understood?" Emily said softly. "What's that?" Nathan asked. "That loving you makes me stronger than they'll ever be." Nathan kissed her temple. And as the wind carried through the wheat, the echoes of cruel laughter were gone forever, replaced by something unbreakable. Because sometimes, the quietest people hold the loudest strength. And when love stands guard, no darkness can ever win.